My name is Amara, and this is the story of how I went from being just a nurse in my husband's eyes to the woman who left him speechless in court. Let me take you back 3 years ago. Back then, I was just 27, working as a senior nurse in Lagos. My days were filled with saving lives, managing difficult patients, and dealing with hospital stress. I wasn't rich, but I was fulfilled. I had a small apartment, a loyal dog named Bingo, and a love for cooking that helped me unwind after long shifts. Then came Raymond Uch. Raymond was everything I thought I wanted in a man. Tall, dark-skinned, with a wide smile and eyes that knew how to charm. He was a business consultant, and we met at a medical fundraiser. While I was there to support a sick colleague, he said he was one of the major sponsors. He made jokes, offered to help with hospital donations, and by the end of the night, he had my number. Raymond swept me off my feet. Suddenly, I was going from duty in the emergency ward to being flown to Abuja for weekend trips. From eating eba and okra soup in my flat to dining at luxury restaurants. My friends said I was glowing. Even my mother, who's usually skeptical about men, said, "This one looks serious." Within 6 months, he proposed. A surprise dinner, a ring in a champagne glass, and a room full of friends clapping. I was crying and laughing at the same time. It felt like a dream. I said yes. But dreams sometimes become nightmares. The first red flag came a month after the wedding. We had just moved into his fancy duplex in Lekki. I had taken 2 weeks off work to settle in and help decorate our new home. One morning, I woke up excited to show Raymond a scrapbook I'd made, full of photos and plans for a future charity clinic I wanted to build in honor of my late mother. I was explaining it to him, excitedly pointing at pictures. He smiled, then laughed. "Aw, babe, this is cute. You nurses are so emotional." The word cute stung, but I laughed it off. Another time, I came home from a difficult shift. I'd lost a young boy during surgery, and I sat on the bed crying. Raymond said, "You need to toughen up, Amara. It's not like you're a surgeon or anything. You're just a nurse." Just a nurse. I wish I could say that was the only time. But over the months, the comments grew more frequent. "If I'm the one paying the mortgage, why are you stressing yourself with 12-hour shifts? My friends' wives are into fashion or real estate. You're still working night shifts like a house girl. You should be grateful, Amara. I gave you a new life." At first, I thought he was just proud. Then I realized he was trying to own me. Raymond didn't want a partner. He wanted a project, a simple woman he could upgrade and control. Still, I stayed. I told myself I loved him. I told myself he was under pressure from work. I even prayed about it, hoping marriage counseling would help. But things got worse. He started coming home late. Business meetings, airport trips, hotel receipts, perfume that wasn't mine. When I confronted him, he said I was being paranoid and insecure. "Amara, you're acting like one of those village girls now. This Lagos life is new to you, I get it, but relax." I started to lose confidence in myself. I became quieter, smaller, trying not to trigger his insults. He even convinced me to reduce my hospital hours. "I'll take care of everything," he said. "Just sign here so I can refinance the house under my name. It's easier for tax purposes." And I believed him. Because I loved him. Because I didn't want to lose the man I had given everything to. But everything changed on a rainy Thursday night. I came home early from work. My shift was canceled because of a sudden system shutdown. I walked into the house and heard voices coming from his home office. He was on a video call. His laptop screen was glowing, and he had no idea I was standing by the door. "She doesn't suspect anything, bro," Raymond said, laughing. "She thinks she owns half this house. Meanwhile, everything's in my name." The man on the call laughed. "Guy, this your nurse wife Namumu. Na jackpot you get-o." I swear, she signed the property paper with her own hand. Even her father's land back in Enugu, she gave me power of attorney to help register it. She knows Sabi say that land day oil zone. I froze. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Raymond continued. "After the divorce, she'll be left with nothing. I've prepared the papers. She's so soft-hearted, she won't even fight back. Let her go back to her injection and patient life. Me, I'm moving forward." Tears rolled down my cheeks, but I didn't make a sound. I backed away quietly and went to the guest room, shaking. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I packed my hospital ID, my documents, and everything I could carry into my car. I didn't tell Raymond I heard anything. I simply kissed his cheek goodbye and said I'd see him later. He smiled. Good girl. Little did he know, I was already making moves. I drove to the hospital first, then to my cousin's office. She was a property lawyer. Then I called Barrister Bint Abdul, a woman I met years ago during a medical seminar. She had once told me, anytime you need legal help, Amara, call me. And I did. That day was the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter that Raymond never saw coming. I didn't tell anyone at the hospital what was happening, except one person, Matron Grace, my supervisor and mentor. She took one look at my face and pulled me into the nurse's lounge. Amara, she said, you look like you haven't slept in a week. I need a few days off, I whispered. Please, I'll explain later. She nodded. Go, take care of yourself. And remember, you're stronger than you think. I left that day and didn't return for 3 weeks. Barrister Binta Abdul was a calm woman with sharp eyes and a sharp mind. She listened silently as I told her everything. Raymond's manipulation, the phone call, the documents, even the land in Enugu my father left behind. You say he convinced you to sign a power of attorney for that land? She asked. I nodded. He said it was for registration purposes. I didn't think twice. Binta leaned back in her chair and smiled. Amara, you might have signed that document, but if we can prove fraud or deceit, it won't hold in court. But first, you said the land is in Nansuka? Yes, my father gave it to me in his will. Have you ever had that land evaluated? No, he always told me it was our family land. Nothing special. Binta picked up her phone. Let's find out exactly what your husband was hoping to steal. That same day, she contacted a local real estate agent and land surveyor in Enugu. She also filed an emergency request to block any transfer of property until the court case was decided. Within a week, we had news. Amara, Binta said during our next meeting, your father's land is sitting on newly discovered oil reserves. An oil company recently started negotiations with landowners in that area. I blinked. Wait, oil? She nodded. Your land alone has been appraised at $5.6 billion. In dollars, that's nearly $4 million. And that's without factoring in lease royalties or monthly payments if you sign with an oil company. I just sat there, stunned. All my life, I believed I came from a humble background. My father was a retired school principal. He never showed off. We never lived lavishly. And yet, he had quietly left me something that powerful men like Raymond would kill to own. But that wasn't the only shock. 3 days later, Binta called again. Amara, you said your father used to keep files in that brown briefcase, right? Yes, it's still in my old room in Enugu. Go and get it. I have a feeling there's more. I made the journey that weekend. It was my first time back in our village home since my father's burial. I walked into the quiet house, took the dusty briefcase from his wardrobe, and drove back to Lagos. Inside, I found his will, the land documents, letters from an oil company offering to buy the land years ago, and a sealed letter addressed to me. I opened it with shaking hands. My dear Amara, if you're reading this, it means I'm no longer with you. But I want you to know, I've always been proud of you. You became the woman I dreamed of raising, strong, kind, and intelligent. This land you now own is worth more than you may understand. I didn't tell you its value because I wanted you to grow into yourself without money changing who you are. If you ever find yourself with a man who tries to control you, belittle you, or make you feel less than you are, walk away. Do not fight to be loved by someone who doesn't see your light. This land, and a savings account I left in your name, are your protection. Not because you are weak, but because the world is harsh, and I want you to have options. You are worth more than any man can measure. Your loving father. I cried for hours after reading that. My father had known. Somehow, even in death, he was still guiding me. Raymond, meanwhile, was getting ready to file for divorce. He came home one evening holding wine and smiling like a devil. Let's do this peacefully, he said. I've prepared the documents. You'll get a good settlement. I don't want to hurt you. You already did, I wanted to scream. But instead, I smiled. I'll have my lawyer look at them. He looked surprised. You got a lawyer? Yes, Barrister Binta Abdul. That name wiped the smirk off his face. He'd heard of her. Everyone had. Raymond's tone changed immediately. Amara, let's not make this messy. I agree, I said calmly. Let's not. What he didn't know was that Binta had already frozen the property documents, gathered phone call recordings, yes, I had proof, and was preparing the fraud case. And then, on a Friday morning, Raymond's pride came crashing down. He got a call from Binta's firm. They were filing for divorce on grounds of fraud, deceit, emotional abuse, and asset manipulation. He called me in a panic that evening. Amara, what's going on? This isn't necessary. You want to destroy me? No, Raymond, I just want back what's mine. He laughed nervously. You don't even understand how these things work. I understand perfectly. You were trying to steal from me. You underestimated me because I wore scrubs and didn't brag about money. You think just because your father left you empty land. I cut him off. That empty land is worth more than everything in your account. Silence. For the first time since I met him, Raymond had nothing to say. That night, I looked at myself in the mirror and smiled. I wasn't just a nurse. I was Amara Okoye, daughter of a wise man. And the storm had just begun. Before we continue, please like, subscribe, and tell me which country you're watching from in the comments. Now, let's continue. The courtroom was colder than I expected, not because of the air conditioning, but because Raymond sat just a few feet away, pretending like none of this mattered. He wore his usual expensive suit, tailored sharp, but for the first time, he looked unsure. He didn't smile when I walked in. He didn't nod, he just stared. Across from him, I sat in a navy blue gown, simple but elegant, with Barrister Binta Abdul at my side, papers neatly arranged in her sleek black file. Judge Miri Makinwale entered, adjusted her glasses, and looked down at the case file. Mr. Raymond Uche and Mrs. Amara Uche, she began. We are here to address the petition for divorce and allegations of fraudulent asset manipulation. We will hear opening statements before reviewing documentation and witness evidence. Raymond's lawyer, a tall, cocky man named Derek Ikena, stood first. Your Honor, this is a straightforward case. My client, Mr. Uche, is requesting a peaceful dissolution of marriage. He generously offered Mrs. Uche a fair settlement. There is no fraud, only a misunderstanding. Mr. Uche wishes to move forward without conflict. He sat down, calm and proud of himself. Then Binta stood. Your Honor, my client Amara Uche has come to this court not just as a woman seeking divorce, but as a woman who was lied to, manipulated, and nearly robbed of everything her late father left her. This is not just a matter of ending a marriage, it is a matter of justice. Judge Akinwale raised her brow. Proceed. The first 2 hours were spent reviewing basic marital documents, marriage certificate, joint account setup, property papers. Raymond kept looking confident. His lawyer smiled often. They were relaxed, but they didn't know what was coming. Let's talk about the Nsuka land, Binta said, rising again. Raymond shifted in his chair. That land was left to Mrs. Uche by her late father, Binta said. But we have evidence that Mr. Uche manipulated her into signing a power of attorney under the pretense of registration, with the intention to sell the land and pocket the funds. That's false, Raymond barked, standing up suddenly. Mr. Uche, the judge said sharply, you will speak when called. Raymond sat, fists clenched. Binta continued. We also have a recorded phone conversation where Mr. Uche boasts to a friend about his plan to divorce my client and take everything, including the land. Gasps echoed through the courtroom. The judge leaned forward. Is this true? Binta reached into her file and pulled out a transcript. It was legally obtained from the residence of Mr. and Mrs. Uche. Here are the audio and written records. He said, quote, she thinks I love her. Meanwhile, I'll walk away with her father's land, and she'll be left with nothing but hospital shifts. Raymond turned red. His lawyer whispered frantically. Papers shuffled. A bottle of water was opened and emptied in seconds. The real shock came next. Binta presented the geological survey and oil exploration documents. Your Honor, she said, this land is not an empty village plot. It is part of a government-mapped oil zone. Recent appraisals value it at 5.6 billion naira. My client was never told. Her husband planned to sell it behind her back. The judge's pen stopped. Mr. Uche, she said, were you aware of the land's value when you pushed for power of attorney? Raymond's voice cracked. I wasn't sure. I heard rumors. You didn't think to share those rumors with your wife? Silence. Furthermore, Binta added, we've discovered documents showing that Mr. Uche opened a secret account and attempted to transfer ownership of the land to a third party, under a shell company tied to his cousin. Luckily, the land was flagged and frozen by our legal team. The judge exhaled slowly. This is no longer a standard divorce case. Then came the final piece. Binta opened a letter in an envelope marked confidential. This is a copy of the will and final letter from Amara's late father, Chief Ikechukwu Okoye. It clearly states that the land is to remain in Amara's name and must never be sold, used, or transferred without her full consent. She read the lines aloud. This land is my daughter's inheritance. I know men may come who will try to take it. This is my final protection for her. Raymond put his head in his hands. The courtroom was silent. Judge Akinwale finally spoke. Mr. Uche, based on the evidence presented, the audio recordings, the fraudulent use of legal documents, and the hidden bank accounts, I am placing a full hold on all marital assets. She looked at me. Mrs. Uche, your father's land remains yours. It will be legally restored under your sole name, and any attempts made to sell or transfer it will be reversed. Then she turned to Raymond. As for you, Mr. Uche, you are to return all properties under dispute until a final judgment is made. Your behavior shows clear intent to defraud, and this court does not take that lightly. Raymond sat motionless. His empire of lies was crumbling, and everyone could see it. That day, as I stepped outside into the courtyard, a breeze brushed across my face. I closed my eyes for a moment and let it hit me. It didn't feel like a victory dance. It felt like relief. I wasn't fighting for revenge. I was fighting for my peace, for my father's name, for the woman I used to be before I let a man shrink me. Raymond came outside moments later, alone. Amara, he called, his voice low. Can we talk? I didn't even turn around. You've said enough, I replied. And now, the world has heard it. After that day in court, Raymond became a shadow of himself. His suit still looked expensive, but he looked like a man who'd aged 10 years in a week. He stopped smiling. His usual arrogance disappeared, and every time he looked at me, it was like he was seeing someone he never really knew. Because he didn't. I moved out of our marital home and into a service department, paid for by funds in my father's trust, now fully released to me after the fraud was exposed. I stood in the new apartment that first night, clean, quiet, warm, and I cried. Not because I missed Raymond, not because of everything I had lost, but because I finally felt free. No more walking on eggshells, no more fake smiles at his dinner parties, no more being introduced as just a nurse. Now, I was Amara Okoye, educated, wealthy, powerful in silence, and no one would ever shrink me again. But I didn't stop at freedom. I wanted recovery. I returned to the hospital 2 weeks later. Matron Grace hugged me tightly. You look different. I feel different, I smiled. And it wasn't just words. I started wearing bolder colors. I walked straighter. I spoke with confidence in meetings. The doctors listened to me. The younger nurses asked for my advice. I became someone I wanted to be, not someone defined by a man. Then came the media leak. One of Raymond's business rivals somehow got a hold of the court records and recordings. It went viral on blogs and finance pages. Raymond Uche tried to scam wife out of oil-rich land. Court exposes Lagos banker's plot to defraud nurse wife of billion naira inheritance. He tried to sue the blogs, but his reputation was already burnt. Investors pulled out. One of his luxury apartment deals collapsed. By the end of the month, Raymond had lost 2 of his company's biggest clients. He called me once, blocked number, and left a voice note. Amara, please, I'm sorry. You win, okay? You always were smarter than I gave you credit for. I messed up. I didn't reply. Not because I was bitter, but because I had nothing left to say. One Saturday morning, I traveled back to Nsukka. I stood on that land, my father's land, for the first time since the will was read. It was peaceful. Birds were singing. The air smelled like earth and home. An oil company representative met me there. Ma, we're ready to begin lease negotiations. With your permission, we can set up operations within 3 months. I smiled. Send the terms to my lawyer. We'll review everything. He looked surprised. You don't want to sign anything now? I shook my head. Rushing is how people lose what's theirs. Back in Lagos, I began planning how to use the land's returns. Not for luxury, but for purpose. I launched a small scholarship fund in my father's name for girls from low-income families studying nursing or education. I created a cancer support program at my hospital in memory of my father who died without proper treatment. Every step I took, I felt him walking with me. And every time I looked in the mirror, I saw the daughter he raised, finally, standing tall. Meanwhile, Raymond's troubles grew worse. During the final court hearing, the judge issued her final statement. Mr. Uche, your actions were deliberate and malicious. Not only will Mrs. Uche retain all her inherited property, she will also receive 50% of marital assets and an additional settlement for emotional distress and legal fees. Raymond opened his mouth to argue, but the judge stopped him with one line. Your problem, Mr. Uche, is that you mistook silence for stupidity. After the verdict, as I stepped out of the courtroom, a young woman stopped me in the hallway. Are you the woman from the land case? I nodded, unsure. She smiled. Thank you. You gave me courage to leave someone who thought he owned me. That was when I realized this story wasn't just about me anymore. It was about every woman who's ever been made to feel small. Every woman who stayed silent to keep the peace. Every woman who forgot her own worth. And that's when I knew. The best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's becoming so whole, so healed, and so happy that their names don't even make your heart race anymore. Weeks after the final court ruling, Raymond tried once more to get in touch. He sent flowers to my hospital. He emailed me a long letter saying he made a mistake, that money got to his head, and that he now saw the woman I had always been. He even wrote that he was ready to build back trust. But it was too late, because I had already built something else, a life without him. With my father's land fully secured and an oil company beginning development, my monthly royalties were enough to retire 5 times over. But I didn't stop working, because wealth without purpose is just noise. I used the money to build something lasting. 1. The Ikechukwu Foundation for Girls, which offered full scholarships to girls from rural communities to study health and education. 2. A cancer support center in Enugu named Okoye Haven, in memory of my father, who died too quietly in a public ward. 3. A legal aid program that partnered with Barrister Binta's firm to help women fight abusive marriages and financial manipulation. Every press interview asked the same question. Amara, what made you stay strong through everything? And my answer was always the same. I didn't stay strong. I remembered who raised me. 3 months after the verdict, I received an invitation to a real estate investors gala in Lagos. Normally I wouldn't go, but I saw the host name, RNU Capital Holdings, Raymond's company. Something told me to go, not to prove anything, but to close the chapter. I arrived in a midnight green gown that shimmered under the lights, my hair pulled back in a braided bun, my makeup, soft, clean, confident, no labels, no diamonds, just presence. I walked in alone. Raymond saw me from across the hall and froze mid-sentence. His champagne glass lowered slowly. His eyes widened. I didn't go to him. I didn't need to. People greeted me like they knew my name. One woman whispered, "That's Amara, the nurse-turned-oil heiress. She started that cancer center." Another said, "She's the one whose husband tried to steal from her and ended up losing everything." I smiled softly. This was not revenge. This was redemption. Later that night, Raymond approached me by the dessert bar. "Amara," he said, his voice small. "You look incredible." I nodded politely. "Good evening, Raymond. I didn't expect you to come." "I didn't come for you," I said calmly. "I came to support the foundation your partner donated to." He chuckled nervously. "You always had that fire in you. I just didn't know how to handle it." "No," I replied. "You tried to extinguish it. But it turns out I was never the one who needed changing." "I regret everything," he muttered. "You were the best thing in my life." I looked at him, really looked, and saw a man who had once stood tall, now crumbling in slow motion. "You didn't lose me," I said. "You threw me away, and that's something you'll have to live with." Then I turned and walked away, my heels clicking softly on the marble floor, not in anger, not in pride, but in peace. In the months that followed, life blossomed in unexpected ways. I met people who valued me for who I was, not what I owned or how I looked. I found new friendships, new passions, new paths. I didn't need a man to complete me. But I also knew, if love ever found me again, it would be love built on respect, not control. Love that didn't shrink me to fit someone else's ego. Now, Whenever I stand before a room full of young girls in rural schools and ask, "Who do you want to become?" I tell them this: never let anyone reduce you to what you wear, where you're from, or what you earn. Your value is not in what others see, it's in what you believe about yourself. Raymond wanted the land. He wanted the title. He wanted the glory. But I found something far more powerful: legacy, purpose, self respect, and peace. And in the end, that made me richer than he ever dreamed. The end. If you love this story, please like, share, and subscribe for more powerful African stories that remind us your silence is not weakness, your kindness is not naivety, and your story can be your greatest weapon. Thank you for watching. And remember, sometimes the people who underestimate you the most are the ones who chew how powerful you really are.